So you're looking to move to Littleton and you're wondering, is this a good place to live? Well, today we got you covered. We're going to give you pros and cons and everything you need to know before you make the move to Littleton. All right, guys, let's dive right into it. Number one question I get asked when people are relocating here and we're exploring some of the different areas is it all boils down to, hey, is this a good place to live? Well, today we're taking a highlight of Littleton, Colorado, and really breaking down whether it is a good place to live or not. So starting off the bat, where is Littleton in proximity to Denver so we can orient ourselves here on the map? Littleton is actually one of the larger suburbs, but it's broken up into, I'd put it into like 3 different buckets. All of these are going to have a Littleton address, but they're very different and very unique in their own way. So historic downtown Littleton, the city of Littleton, where I actually used to work as a police officer for many years, is located just south of Denver. You see it here on the map. Broadway and then Platte Canyon on the west end kind of border the city. There are a few spots that are just a little bit further west of that are actually part of the city of Littleton proper. And then it goes down on the south end to county line, and right below that you kind of butt up into the Highlands Ranch area. But this the historic city of Littleton is one of its own pockets and has a lot of unique charm and special things that give it a tight community feel. Now, if you go west of this area, west of Platte Canyon, still south of that street, Bellevue, you're going to get into an area that is also called Littleton, but it's really a Southwest Jeffco. It's unincorporated Littleton. While you will have a mailing address and people refer to it as Littleton, it's not within the city of Littleton. And you're going to find a lot more homes that are built in the 70s and 80s, a lot of bi-levels and tri-levels, and a much more of a suburban feel with your big box stores, your Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, and your chain restaurants. So a lot of that stuff on the west end, while it's not technically city of Littleton, is still considered Littleton. And then further south of that, we have another pocket that's kind of its own entity. It's called Sterling Ranch. And this also will have a mailing address of Littleton, but it's not within the city and it's not even the Southwest Jeffco area. It actually belongs to Douglas County, but it does have a Littleton address. So we're going to spotlight some unique factors on all 3, explore which one might be the best fit for you, and really get into what it's like living, working, and playing in Littleton. Guys, I'm Tim Camp, and if you haven't been to the channel yet, welcome. Everything Denver, Colorado, where we explore everything real estate related and all the amazing suburbs here. So when you are thinking of your relocation to Denver, or you're in Denver and you're ready to move out of it because you're tired of the drama, hit me up, call, text, or email. I would love to help be your realtor and make your move around the Denver Metro a success. Okay, let's start off with things to do all around the Littleton area and what a lot of people like about living in this South Metro suburb of Denver. So starting off, the location of Littleton makes it convenient access to do a lot of your outdoor activities when moving to Colorado. So we have Chatfield State Reservoir kind of on the southwest corner of the metro area. This is a very popular state park where you can have a lot of your outdoor activities, whether that be camping, biking, hiking, water sports, fishing, paddleboarding. All of it can be done at the Chatfield State Park. And so that is a big draw for a lot of people. It can get crowded in the summers and especially on the weekends during those summers, but it's a beautiful place, just nestled right at the base of the foothills almost. And if you live in Sterling Ranch, you're very, very close to this area. If you had a state parks pass, this is a great place to even hang out after work. Just take a short 5 to 10 minute drive into the park, hike around, walk around, and even take the kids on maybe a overnight camping trip and have it still be very close to home. So Chatfield State Park is a very popular area, but Littleton in general, so close to the foothills, you have easy access into state parks, into the mountains, into places that are great for hiking and biking and mountain biking, whether that be the hogback trails in the Ken Carl Valley area, or you go up into the mountains a little bit further into the Lair of the Bear Park. You just have a lot of outdoor activities to do, and the proximity to the foothills makes it a big draw for a lot of people. Another hidden gem that's kind of on that southwest side is the Deer Creek Canyon, and not as well known road that you can take up into the mountains. There's some parks and hiking to do up there. You can also do some mountain biking up there. But if you're looking for a place that you can find that's a little bit off the beaten path and not going to have the crowds that end up going up I-70 or Highway 285 into the mountains on a weekend, this could be a great option for you. So location and things to do outdoors is a big draw for a lot of people. And Littleton has long been a big draw for families looking to escape kind of that urban area, get into a suburban place with a lot of parks and recreation. So Littleton is filled with parks. Whether you're in that southwest Jeffco area or the city of Littleton, you're generally not going to have a park more than 5 or 10 minutes from your home, and that's walking or biking distance. So there's just a ton of outdoor activities for kids, playgrounds, small ponds. Kettering Lake and Kettering Park is a favorite of people who live inside Littleton. You have these big open fields and old growth trees, as well as, Kettering Lake where, take the kids and go out fishing. It's a small, manageable area, not as big as Chatfield. So if you got little kids, it might be a good place to start if you're getting them involved in those kind of activities. Another thing to do in Littleton is the Littleton Museum. Now, if you have small kids and you kind of don't want the big, huge museums like the Denver Children's Museum or places like the Denver Zoo or the Denver Aquarium, where you're going to have a ton of crowds. And, as a parent, I know you worry about losing your kids in such a crowded environment and being able to keep an eye on them. Littleton Museum is a much slower pace. It is going to be a lot smaller, but there's some great things for kids to do, and it's a little bit slower pace. So if your kids get overwhelmed by crowds, as mine sometimes do, the Littleton Museum can be a great option. And they have an outdoor exhibit where they have, what it was like to live in the 1800s. So it's a great educational experience for them as well. So Littleton is very popular for families, not only for the parks, but the museum and all the other outdoor recreation and things for families to engage in. Another big plus and a reason people really love living in that city of Littleton is it has more of a community feel. The city does a good job of putting on a lot of events throughout the year that can kind of bring people together, and a lot of them are based in that downtown area, the main street of Littleton, where you have your farmers markets and festivals and bike races and parades, and even during the holiday season they'll have a parade down Main Street. So it's a great option to get out, get to know some of the neighbors in the community, get to know the police officers and firefighters that work in the community. So you will have a little bit tighter knit feel when you live in the city of Littleton versus that southwest Jeffco area or the area of Sterling Ranch. So if you're looking for more of community and more unique style homes, Old Town Littleton may be the best option for you. Okay, let's talk about cost of living in these three areas and some things that you'll definitely want to watch out for, because choosing a home in one area versus the other could be a significantly different payment, and not just in the house price, but in property tax rates in these different pockets of Littleton. So the average median price point for a single family home in Littleton is right around $600,000, and that is going to be across the board. If you are looking kind of in that downtown area of Littleton, the home that you're going to get for $600,000 is generally going to be a lot smaller if you're in kind of that historic district versus being out in the southwest suburb of southwest Jeffco, Littleton, where you may be able to find a $600,000 home with more square footage. A lot of the homes, if you're looking for more of that Denver charm in the downtown Littleton area, that is going to be your best option, because a lot of these homes were built kind of early 1900s and 1940s and 50s. So you're definitely going to have a little bit more historic charm in that area. The further south you move, the more suburban it's going to feel in the newer style of homes that you're going to find. As you get closer and closer to the area of Highlands Ranch, you'll find homes that were built in the 90s and even early 2000s. And then if you go into the west side, west of Platte Canyon, outside the city of Littleton proper, you're going to find a lot of homes that were built in the 70s and 80s, and then maybe some newer construction on the further west end, the closer you get to the foothills as the community was developed and built out. But $600,000 is going to be the median price point. If you are looking for value and looking for maybe a starter home, probably that southwest area of Jeffco would be a better fit for you. You are going to find that homes maybe need a little bit more updating than some of the homes in the city of Littleton proper area. area, but your dollar may go just a little bit further in that southwest Jeffco area. And then if you're looking for new construction, whether that be new townhome development or new single-family homes, Sterling Ranch might be the best option for you. Now, homes in Sterling Ranch are going to start out a little bit higher. For a single-family home, this is a newer built community, so you're going to be looking at the 700 and up price range for most of the single family homes when it's all said and done. But if you're looking for a townhome or maybe a paired home where you're only sharing one wall with a neighbor, they do have those newer starting in the $500,000 range. Now, something to consider when you're on your home search in these different areas is make sure you're looking and you're having me look at the property taxes in these different pockets of Littleton. So the city of Littleton, you might have a little bit higher of property taxes and a little bit higher taxes in general. You do get more for your money and more amenities and more services provided by the city than you would in, say, Southwest Jeffco. That's probably where your property taxes are going to be a little bit cheaper. And if you move down to Sterling Ranch, this is where your property taxes are going to be higher. And by higher, I don't mean just like $100 or $200. They're going to be significantly higher. I've seen them double the tax rate of what is happening in that Southwest Jeffco, Southwest Littleton corner. And the reason for that is since this area of Sterling Ranch is a newer development, they have what's called a Metro District, and this is kind of debt that's passed on to the new property owners in the form of property taxes. And this is to pay off things like the sewer lines being installed, the sidewalks going in, the roads going in, the infrastructure, the internet being taken out to those areas. So while you do get the benefits of living in a newer community, and you do have newer parks and different new trails that are being put in, you are ending up paying for that in the form of higher property taxes. So while your property taxes may be $3,000 to $4,000 a year in some of those areas of Southwest Jeffco and Littleton, down in Sterling Ranch you're looking at probably $9,000 to $10,000 a year in property taxes. So it's not anything to sneeze at. It's definitely something to consider, especially if you're monthly payment conscious on buying the new home. Okay, moving on to schools. I know schools are a big issue for a lot of families, and that's why a lot of families have chosen to move into Littleton is one for school choice and better schools. Now, it's going to also depend, much like I said with the property taxes, where you live in Littleton is going to determine the schools that are available to you. So the city of Littleton is going to be in Littleton Public Schools, their own school district, and this is one of the higher ranked school districts in the South Metro area. So it's probably at the top of the list academic wise when it comes to schools in the area. Now, if you live outside the city of Littleton on that west end, west of Platte Canyon in the Southwest Jeffco area, you are going to be assigned to the Jefferson County School District, which is not quite as highly rated as Littleton Public Schools. It has had some issues and its rankings are just not that high compared to Littleton Public Schools and Douglas County Schools. So something to consider. Now, if you move into the Sterling Ranch development that's on the south end, you're actually in Douglas County. So you're going to be going to the Douglas County schools, and those are ranked high as well. They're on par with the Littleton Public School system. Most of their schools are getting a B+ to an A ranking in that realm, and the Jeffco schools that are a little bit on the lower ranked are getting a C to a B average in most of their rankings across the board. So definitely something to consider if you're going to be in one of these different pockets and you really want the kids to be in a specific school district. That's why you got to reach out to me. Hit me up, call, text, or email, and we will make sure that we find the right school district, the right house, and the right neighborhood that's right for your family. Okay, you're like, this all sounds great, but what's the catch and what are the cons? The cons to living in Littleton, there's going to be kind of some variation on depending on which pocket that you decide to live in. But let's start with traffic and congestion in the city of Littleton. A lot of the main thoroughfares in Littleton can get pretty bottlenecked during the times of rush hour. So Santa Fe and Broadway are two of the main thoroughfares when you're living in the city of Littleton to get up into Denver or to get out of it down to the freeway 470 to get around the metro area. And sometimes those can get pretty bottlenecked. I remember when I was working there and living south of Littleton, the toughest part of the drive was always Santa Fe from Bowles all the way down to that county line area. So definitely there are some ways around it. Some of the side city streets can be useful, but the city of Littleton has not expanded the road Santa Fe, which it probably is needed to for several years now. But there's not a lot of room on either side of it for the expansion. You have the railroad tracks and the light rail on one side. You have businesses and some even residential areas on the other side, so it makes it a little bit difficult for expansion in that area. So traffic congestion can be an issue. It's not a deal breaker for a lot of people, but definitely a negative when you're talking about moving into Little. Now, a benefit of living in that southwest Jeffco side when it comes to that traffic congestion is it's not nearly as bad. You have more thoroughfares going north, south, east, and west, and you're very close to the C470 highway that runs all the way around Denver. So living in that southwest pocket is kind of a nice balance. You're close to the mountains if you're going up there for recreation and things, but you also have access to that freeway to get to some of the other hubs of employment, whether that be the Lockheed Martin on the southwest end of town or the Denver Tech Center kind of on that south central part of Denver. Con number 2 is some of the affordability issues. You are kind of paying your Denver prices. You're getting a very similar style of house if you're living in the Littleton area, but the positive of this is you don't have as much of the Denver drama, the homelessness, and the higher cost of living in general. Now that brings me to another con of living in Littleton, and this is if you're kind of in that downtown area and you are near the public transportation, the light rail that comes from Denver into Littleton. You will see a little bit more increase in homelessness activity and some of the challenges that come along with that. We generally find that those are close to some of the more public transportation routes and the light rail in specific. If you move out further to the west in that southwest Jeffco area, there's not as much public transportation out there, so if that's something you're reliant on, city of Littleton's probably better. But if it's not, if you're very car independent and you like that better, you're going to find that there's a lot less homelessness and those issues that have come along with that in the southwest Jeffco area. And then if you move to Sterling Ranch, there is no public transportation down there, and there's no services or businesses kind of in that area, so there's really not much in the terms of homelessness and the challenges that come along with that in those areas. So depending on how much tolerance you have for that and how much you're able to handle it, being in your backyard may determine also where you end up. And con number 3, I kind of mentioned it on the affordability one, but property taxes can be very high depending on which area of Littleton you select to live in. So if you're in Sterling Ranch, property taxes are going to be very high. If you're in that southwest Jeffco area, they're going to be a little bit lower. And if you're in the city of Littleton proper, you're kind of going to be in a middle ground there. I wanted to also hit on the employment opportunities around Littleton. So Littleton has a good mix of business and residential. I'd say it is tilted more toward primary residential versus, the interior of Denver, where you have a lot more businesses and a lot less residential areas in that urban corridor. But you do have a good blend, and people who live in Littleton generally work very nearby, whether that's in the city, for the city, or for one of the school systems, or in one of the nearby businesses that's just outside the city. A lot of people that live in Littleton actually work very close to it. It's not like Parker or Castle Rock, where there's just not a lot of business opportunities and most of the people that live there end up commuting for work 20 or 30 minutes. Littleton does have a good balance of people that live and work within the cities. Okay, to recap here, we're talking the pros and cons. Pros, very family friendly, very community oriented, high quality of life here, and a great option if you like outdoor activities and amenities nearby. Cons to living in Littleton: some of the affordability issues, some higher property taxes in some areas, and some areas where you're going to have to deal with some of that Denver drama of homelessness and the challenges that come along with that. Those are some of the cons. Those are the pros. Guys, if you are thinking of a move out here to Littleton, hit me up, please. Call, text, or email, and we will get you set up for success. I got your back on all things Denver real estate. So if you decide Denver or one of the amazing suburbs is the right place for you and your family going forward, please, I would love to be your realtor. And we'll see you on the next video.